It's like it's 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the Seymour Common Council meeting for Monday, May the 28th, 2024. Welcome, everybody. The Reverend Les Lenz is actually out of town tonight, so pinch hitting will be Tyler Hinkle. All rise.
I don't hear that. I don't think they hear anything.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's not doing anything.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight in thanks and gratitude, thankful that we are able to come as one people to make decisions, to discuss ideas, join as one as we move forward in this great country that you call America. In particular, we come before you tonight as well to remember those who've laid down the ultimate sacrifice so that we may be here today to make these decisions as one people. We ask that you guide the hands, the mouths, the minds of the men and women who are going to be participating and making decisions tonight. We ask that you will grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And if you join me in this part, we also ask in the words that your Son taught us. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory are yours forever. Amen.
in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Tyler. Next up to lead us in the pledge tonight is ISU student going back for his second year after summer here, Paul Bontrager.
If y'all will join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please, Mr. Bose, while I try to figure out what's wrong with the system.
Mr. Blish.
Here.
Mr. Terrell.
Here.
Mr. Hackney.
Here.
Mr. Hubbard.
Here. It's a
Mr.
start.
Davidson.
Here.
Mr. Lucas.
Here.
Mr. Story.
Here.
Everyone is present and accounted for.
Is that better out there? Okay.
Excuse me, gentlemen. I would like to ask you, please speak up. We have a little trouble hearing you sometimes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting? If so, I'll entertain any motions related to. So moved. Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Before I go around reports, I just want to let people know that tonight, as based by ordinance number 1, Council Bill number 1 from 1992, any participation or comments from the audience from individuals will be limited to 3 minutes, and Police Chief O'Brien will be keeping count of the time. Reports, Mr. Blish.
No, sir.
Mr. Terrell.
No.
Mr. Hackney.
No.
Mr. Hubbard.
No.
Mr. Davidson.
No.
Mr. Lucas.
Nope.
Mr. Story.
Special committee, we'll report out later. We do have, council does have some committee appointments to make, or one in particular for Plan Commission. That would be the seat that Mr. Wheeler vacated a few months back now. So I entertain any conversation or any motions related to appointing someone to the Plan Commission from council.
Brian, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So I'll make a motion to appoint
Yeah, it's an appointment from you guys.
Brian Terrell to Plan Commission.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to appoint new council member Brian Terrell to the Plan Commission. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Mr. Terrell. With that appointment, I'm going to go ahead and give you your other two assignments besides planning and zoning. Governmental affairs will be one of yours, and retail development will be your other one. So those are your three committee assignments. Along those same lines, Mr. Wheeler was also a member of the Trails Committee that the council appoints. So entertain any conversation that you guys wish to have on that topic, or motions, or whatever your will is on it.
You don't have.
That's what he was on. I'm fine taking the seats that he was on. Yeah, it's not a problem.
Make that motion.
Motion for Brian Terrell?
Second.
And a second. Have a motion and a second to appoint, for council to appoint Brian Terrell to the Trails Committee. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations again. Okay, that's what I had. Next up, we do have public hearings tonight. First public hearing is to amend Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code to update schedule of trash rates. This will actually be introduced in a little bit by Public Utilities Chair Clint Blish, but I will now open the public hearing related to Chapter 50 and the trash rates. Public hearing is open. Would anybody like to speak in favor of the trash rate conversation? Anybody like to speak against the trash rate conversation? Seeing no, there's somebody.
Hello?
Please step to the podium though, ma'am.
At the previous city council meeting on May 13th, 2024, there was discussion from a number of audience members regarding whether there is a true need for the rate increase for trash, stormwater,
Right now,
All
we're
of
just
that.
talking trash, ma'am.
okay, trash. Okay. I think pretty much, I think it's a general consensus that people are aware that there is a significant, very, very significant increase in the city's population, even by census standards. And as such, we do have probably a massive amount more of trash collection pickup. But my underlying question is, why do we have so much more trash pickup? And I'm not counting Make Seymour Shine, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the standard weekly trash pickup. Why do we have such an increase in the amount of trash? And I think I would like for each one of the city council members to look within his heart of hearts and address that. What's the underlying problem of why we have that much trash? Why the city budget has to pay more to Rumpke or to whomever the new trash contract will go to? Why are we having to pay that? And thus increase the costs on to the everyday taxpayer and property owner.
You wanna?
Anybody else like to speak?
Yeah. So, I came here hoping to have the numbers for you, but I don't have the numbers with me at the moment, but they have seen kind of the numbers of what we have. I tried to do an update.
Speak into the mic, please,
So,
Jen.
I guess, rates go up everywhere, and that's basically what this is. This is, we're just trying to stay above, trying not to drown. Trying to give our guys the equipment they deserve and need to make it as efficient as we can to pick up trash for everybody. I mean, that's by the numbers that I have and everything else, that's basically what it boils down to. I mean, prices have gone up on everything. Yeah.
And is it because there's a lot of people in a house when normally there's only 2 in my house and around. I will say they did a wonderful job today. They were still out on my way here tonight
Yeah, they were.
to get
Yeah.
all the trash picked up. I'm not saying that, but is it because of so many people living in a household that they have like 3 or 4 different
Not sure.
buckets at one place?
we actually have a limit on how many trash receptacles you're allowed per resident. So I mean, that's not,
What's the limit?
3,
3?
2, 3.
Be 2 trash, 1 recycle.
2 trash, 1 recycle.
Okay, I think
So
I've
3
seen
total.
more than that, but,
But yeah, that's,
okay.
and we do have a database that we keep as far as what we have. We have to keep an inventory of everything, so we know who exactly has which container. Not everything's perfect, right? But I'll say last week, we collected 140 tons of trash. I will say that.
Please state your name when you get up too. Sorry, I forgot to say that earlier.
Yeah, Tyler Hinkle. If it has to happen, it has to happen, but I think the easy solution would be if all of the people of Seymour, just maybe, including myself, just stopped using as much disposable trash. That's kind of like at the very bottom of it, right? Like we just are more conscious of the amount of trash and the amount of consumables that we as a people are consuming. Like the numbers are that you just stop using as many things. I don't know. That would actually solve the trash problem because there wouldn't be as much trash.
Jim Lucas, just a quick question. Have you done an assessment to see how much trash we pick up compared to other communities of our size, 21,500? Would that be possible?
We can do that, yeah. I actually did a pretty comprehensive plan a few years back, which I can bring that up or even share with you.
Okay.
But I will say this year versus last year, this same time, so the calendar year, whatever, we actually collected 10 ton less this year than we did last year. So we had 153 ton a year ago. We had 140 ton. Just last
140
week.
ton per week or per month?
Just last week.
Okay, per week.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how we compare to other communities, the next, pick out 5 communities
Right.
that have a population of about 21,500.
Do you want to separate recycle from that?
No,
and
just
yard waste
residential.
From that? And because this, even though we call this a trash service, this also helps pay for all the services you get from DPW, if you will. Does that make sense? As far as garbage, your yard waste.
I mean, you can if you want. I'm
Recycle.
just after volume.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Doug Gregory. I worked for the city for 24 years. When I started in 2000, trash was $3 a ton. The city paid $13 a ton to get rid of it. What is it now?
I think it's 1884.
So,
I remember
I mean,
the
cost
last
goes
number.
up, plain and simple. And I know Rumpke's not cheap.
No.
Okay.
They've went up, if you think of the number of people that, and something I do just because obviously I'm cost conscious. When you drive around the city and look on trash days, how many Amazon boxes do you see sitting out there? How many Walmart boxes do you see sitting out there? We've become a society of convenience by ordering stuff and sending it to the house.
Yeah.
So obviously we're generating more trash doing those type of things.
My name is Kyle Herkamp. You had mentioned about rising costs needing to be increased for this. Could the rising costs be to the trash department advertising for more employees to work there, more truck drivers? Is that an anticipated cost? Because that's on the city website.
And we hire all the time.
Okay, so is there not an increase in service usage? It's just an increase in cost to the city hiring more employees for less trash pickup?
We have hired no additional
There-
employees.
No, we've not.
There has been advertised on the city website for
Those are to
more.
replace people that have
turnover.
left. That's called turnover.
Turnover.
Yeah, it's not new people.
Our salary ordinance
we've
every
not.
year specifies how many employees each department can have. And any variation in that has to be approved by this council every year with the salary ordinance.
We actually employ a lot less people than what we did, especially like even in Doug's day. Back then, we employed quite a few less. What do we have, around 50 to 55?
3 per truck.
Yeah.
Now we're down to 1 per truck.
Yeah, we're less than 40.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll close the public hearing related to Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code to update the schedule of trash rates. Next up, public hearing wise, is to amend Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code to update the stormwater user fee determination. Again, this will be introduced by Clint Bush here in a few minutes. But at the sound of the gavel, we will open the public hearing for stormwater user fee determination. Public hearing is open for stormwater user fee determination. Would anybody like to speak on the stormwater?
My name is Kyle Herkamp. I guess it's kind of the same question. Stormwater, is that rainwater that rains down is hitting the buildings and going into the ground, and the city treatment plant has to detoxify it from whatever chemicals it hits or anything on the buildings, structures that may exist? That's what it is? Okay. Is there an increase in rain compared to previously to warrant the, I think last meeting it was a 63 or 67% increase?
So the stormwater rate, I believe, is going from 4 to 6, correct? That's a 50% increase, number one. Number two, part of expanding our stormwater system is to take some load off of the wastewater treatment plant. Because just like you commented, a lot of the rainwater, they have to run through the system, just like the same water that goes through your washing machine, your toilet, or whatever else. By diverting it, that doesn't have to happen. So they don't have to treat it, they don't have to put chemicals, they don't have to spin it in the centrifuges, all that type of stuff. The goal is to relieve some of that from the wastewater plant, get it back into the river, and again, allow us a much longer lifespan of the current sewage works.
Okay, so it's to expand it to try and take the stress off of the treatment plant to let it go back naturally into rivers and creeks.
And to help prevent some of the flooding areas in Seymour also that we see.
Hello, my name is Paula Herkamp, and the question I have in regards to the stormwater fees is, as Mr. Bose pointed out, a 50% increase in the costs of that. We do have a lot of additional wastewater due to the increased population of the city, so that's self-implicit and understood that we would definitely have an increase of wastewater going through to our water treatment plant. My concern is that this excess or increased amount of wastewater, whether it's coming off of hitting someone's roof, tin roof, asphalt roof, or whatever, is that the additional wastewater that comes through the city, and eventually everything goes to the wastewater treatment plant, including sewage, does it not?
Sewage, yes.
Okay.
Stormwater, no.
So if we have an increased population by approximately 50%, then it stands to reason logically that we would have a 50% increase in sewage waste that's going to the wastewater treatment plant. And my genuine concern is that our systems may not have been designed to hold that much capacity. I believe about 3 meetings ago, one of the officials here at the meeting stated our wastewater capacity was at approximately 70%. But last meeting on May 13th, 2024, it was quoted as being 40 to 50% capacity. As a citizen, I'd kind of like to know what it really is, if we actually have an assessment and have some numbers. And
First thing I would say is we're talking stormwater, not wastewater. Second thing I would say is, Doug, you want to talk about your current employment?
I had just mentioned the wastewater because Mr. Bose had mentioned wastewater in his comment reply to Kyle Herkamp.
Yeah, that's fine. When we get, we just went through a study with some grant money to upgrade some of the things at the wastewater facility. And I had to do an I&I report for them. An I&I report is your groundwater that's coming in through a broken pipe. It's just groundwater. It's clean water. It's just groundwater. It could be coming through a broken pipe. It could come through the walls of the lift station, whatever. On a normal day, we run about 8 to 11% I&I. When it rains 2 inch, we go up to 39%. The stormwater feed, that's what it'll help with that. We've got an engineer firm that has came in, and we're working with them to eliminate some of the I&I, such as separate storm from sewer, so that way that stormwater goes back to the creeks or the rivers or the ditches. And that's what it is. And the money's not there to do anything now. We're hoping with the increase there is. We will have a list of projects. It's supposed to be done around July. We will have a list of those projects in July. So, but that's where we're at now.
Any other comments related to stormwater? Hearing none, I will, nope, sorry, come on in.
Solomon Rust. Just wondering if any of the projects include the alleyway between St. Louis and Second Street?
It will be on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing for stormwater. Okay, that's it for public hearings tonight. Old business, Mr. Bose.
Old business, Mr. Blish.
I do. I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 13, Council Bill 26 by title only.
Mr. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Second reading ordinance number 13, Council Bill number 26 for 2024, and ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code regarding buildings and house sewers. Public Utilities Committee, Mr. Blish.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked in the previous meeting, essentially it's just cleaning up some language that, or I guess lack thereof, that wasn't in there of who actually owned from the house or business, building all the way to the sewer tap. And is that right, Doug?
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't, what'd you say, it was stated in one manual but not in another?
Yeah, it's stated in the spec manual.
Okay. And basically saying that the property owner is responsible from the building all the way to the sewer tap. Any questions from council on that?
That's just clarification, or was that something that was there something that was not covered previously?
It is.
I had somebody reach out to me regarding this, is why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, the way I understood it, it was just, it wasn't clear of who owned what, and it's just some clarification, cleaning up, or I keep saying cleaning up language, but adding the proper terminology to make it clear who owns what.
Okay.
Anything from the audience? Go ahead.
My name's Mark Edmondson. That's vague, what you're talking about there, because I deal with homeowners all the time when getting into replacing sewer lines and stuff. And there's times when I could do a job for $1,200, and there's times that I could see somebody look at a job that's $25,000, $30,000 here in Seymour. And the difference being is, if you get into an area of Seymour where there's a lot of sand and water, then you got to bring in big equipment, because you've got to go deeper sometimes, depending on the location of the sewer. And I work in different cities doing the same thing. And one of the things I'm seeing is Seymour leads the way in how you guys handle it. Some of the other cities, sometimes they'll take care of part of it up to once it starts at the street and go on. But what people got to realize is it's their responsibility from the house to the sewer tap. And the sewer tap can be on the other side of the street. And most people don't realize that. So that becomes where you've got to take the street up, and then you've got to put a new line in, and then put it back together. And a lot of these sewer lines here in this city are getting older, which we see all the time, just like with lawyers on Tipton the other day. And so it's a really big expense, and a lot of these homeowners aren't seeing what's coming, but in time, it will probably hit most people. What the I can't pronounce that word. I think it needs to be clear as to where the sewer tap is for the people's responsibility, because it's not just up to your sidewalk or to the street, but it can be the other side of the street. And when that occurs, it's your home, you're responsible for it, and it could be thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. So, just thought I'd say that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 13, Council Bill 26 on second reading.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Ordinance number 13, Council Bill number 26 has passed second reading, 7-0. Additional business, Mr. Blish.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to read the second reading of ordinance number 15, Council Bill 35 by title only.
Second.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yeah.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 15, Council Bill number 35 for 2024, and ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code to update schedule of trash rates. Public Utilities, Mr. Blish.
Yeah, basically it's just, you know, what the mayor spoke about a while ago, but, you know, currently the trash rate's $7. By 2020, June, I believe, of 2026, it'll be at $11. So, like we spoke about on the first reading, instead of, you know, the last time they waited 20 years to raise any rates, you know, basically they're trying to do it in smaller increments over a 3-year period versus hitting everybody with a big rate increase all at once.
Darren, you had worked with Reedy on this? Was it you that was working with Reedy?
We really didn't, this was their proposal. We had a little bit of input. They actually wanted the rate to go, they recommended a rate, I think, of $12.80 or something. It was over $12. But we're hoping that eventually IDEM approves the transfer station to offset some of those costs, so that's why we lowered the rate to 11. Still, you know, anxiously waiting on IDEM's approval of that as a cost savings measure.
What if that doesn't happen?
Then we'll
Are we
proceed
talking,
with the ordinance and see where we're at in 3 years, I guess. Unless something astronomical happens.
and we're closer with IDM now?
No, Chad's on the phone with them, it seems like every week, so.
What are they waiting on? What are
They're
they
in,
expecting?
they're in their review process.
Okay.
Any other comments from council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve, lost my place here, ordinance 15, Council Bill 35 on the second reading.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Ordinance number 15, Council Bill 35 has passed second reading, 7-0. Back to you, Mr. Blish.
Yeah, I got one more. I'll make a motion to read the second reading of ordinance number 15, Council Bill 35 by
Number
title
16.
only.
We just did 15.
Yep, marked out the wrong one. Let's try that. Ordinance number 16, Council Bill 36 by title only.
Second.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 16, Council Bill 36 for 2024, and ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Seymour City Code to update stormwater user fee determination. Public Utilities, Mr. Blish.
Yeah, so it's along the same lines as the trash rate, just, you know, going to increase over 3 years. And like Darren spoke a while ago, it ends up being right at 50%. But It's currently $4. It will end up at $6 over the next 3 years. Any questions from council? Or from the audience? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve, get it right this time. Ordinance number 16, Council Bill 36 on second reading.
Second. Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Ordinance number 16, Council Bill 36 has passed second reading, 7-0. Additional business, Mr. Blish?
No, sir.
Mr. Terrell? Old business.
No, I don't have any.
Mr. Hackney?
No, sir.
Mr. Hubbard?
No, sir.
Mr. Davidson?
I do. I'd like to make a motion to read ordinance number 18, Council Bill 39, by title only.
Second.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 18, Council Bill 39 for 2024, and ordinance amending Title 9, General Regulations of the Seymour City Code, specifically Chapter 95, Health and Sanitation. Industrial Development Committee, Mr. Davidson.
Yeah, this is really just updating some language in this ordinance of Section 1, letter C, basically allowing for native and natural grasses for a business that wants to become LEED certified out at the East Side Industrial Park. Mr. Lorenzo, is anything new you would want to add that you didn't add last time?
I have nothing additional.
Okay. Does anybody from the council have any questions, comments?
I've only got one concern, I guess, with that, and, you know, I've thought about it quite a bit since the last meeting, but, you know, being that I deal with agriculture every day, you know, we're constantly fighting new weeds and stuff that we've never seen before. I guess that would be my concern of what kind, you know, I know it says native grasses, but, you know, if it could possibly turn into something that we've never seen before and have something else to battle that we don't typically, or, you know, maybe haven't dealt with in the past.
I can tell you what they've told me.
Sure.
My name's Jeff Lorenzo, by the way. Native grasses will not volunteer in areas that have a cover or turf. If the site is left completely unmanaged, there is certainly the possibility of some native grasses finding their way over time, but it will likely be overrun with non-native weeds and not allow for native seed formation. Now, you would know more about this than I do, because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
They do not anticipate that this would be a problem. They manage this, so I suppose Joe Shutman would be the guy that would be most concerned, but I don't see this going anywhere based on what they're telling me.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the council?
Yeah, it's not just in that one location that we described.
Correct.
Right.
And no, this is kind of they were the requesters, but yes, this would be, assuming that it was approved by, I believe, the city planning, they would have to go through and have approval through city planning, but yes, this would be, so.
And it would only be in industrial settings.
Correct, that's correct. Anybody from the council have anything they'd like to?
My name is Kyle Herkamp. I don't recall last meeting, Mr. Lorenzo, how much of an exemption are they wanting? Are they wanting these native grasses and weeds to be exempted to grow up to a foot high, 2 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, or how high up are they looking at?
This says the height not to exceed 10 inches.
10 inches. Okay.
10 inches is
That's
the old
current.
guide.
The current.
That's
10
the
inches.
current.
I'm sorry.
It will exceed 10 inches, but it would look very similar to where we, 2 feet, you would know better than I.
2 feet, okay. Are there any woods,
I mean,
wooded acreage
Probably
nearby?
taller than 2 feet, but I don't know an exact.
About this much more?
Knee-high?
Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
Knee-high?
in the stuff I've seen before on native grasses, I mean, it's got to get pretty tall before you can really tell it's something, you know, that it is native grass. But I mean, I guess in my opinion, something more like waist high would be possible, but I can't speak to whatever this grass is. It's just
All right. Are there
speculation, I
any
guess.
wooded acreage nearby where wildlife, raccoons, possums, foxes may decide to hunker down in there, and we then have wildlife coming in and interacting? I believe you said it was a food services corporation, so would we run a risk of contamination through animal wildlife feces or?
No, the only trees, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only trees that I know in the neighborhood are along the interstate, just volunteer trees.
Okay.
Anybody else from the?
My name is Kay Shara, and I guess the question I have is who is going to police this? Who's going to make sure that it looks, I have seen some things like this that they've tried to do, and to me it looks like weeds. So that's my only comment there, is that we need somebody
That would be the
that's
ordinance
responsible
administrator.
for it. Pardon me?
That'd be the ordinance administrator. That's who would police this, is the ordinance administrator.
Okay, and then is that something that the city or county would take care of if it gets out of control, or?
Yes, the city typically, if something gets out of control, is the one that
Okay, but this is property
you
that's
work with the
being,
property owner, and then you sometimes have to mow it for them.
but this is property that's being utilized by a company,
It's,
and they
yes,
don't
it's
have any
industrial.
responsibility for it. It's on our backs,
No.
no?
If we have to go in and maintain it, and then we send them a bill, if they do not pay it, then we lien their property, and it would go on their property taxes for the next year, just as we would any resident who
Oh.
doesn't keep their
Okay.
yard cut or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Tyler Hinkle. In the event that cannabis was decriminalized, would it be considered a natural Indiana grass? No? Okay, thank you for the clarification.
It's weed.
Anybody else from the audience?
Not even sure what to write down on that one.
My name is Paula Herkamp, and like Mr. Blish, I have a very lengthy, hundreds of years long ancestry in Jackson County in regards to agricultural land use. My ancestors cleared the land of the trees and the brush, which caused other problems along the way for the natives, my other native ancestors that lived here. But my question of concern is, I think that we can pretty much very easily classify most anything as native grasses. Even the grasses that have come over here and overpopulated the United States in the last 100 years or 150 years, they've been here long enough that they're now considered native grasses. I'm not just talking about Virginia creeper. Oh yeah, wild hemp, wild marijuana, but also other grasses. What about the Japanese knotweed and all of the other invasive places? We don't know what is coming in. Mr. Lorenzo at the previous meeting on May 13th, 2024, declared that there was a confidentiality agreement with his client in regards to the land that he's wishing to sell, but that maybe by this meeting he would be able to reveal the identity and the true purpose behind the plans. I have concern that the city of Seymour would truly implement ordinance standards against an industrial business, because why find someone if they're providing jobs? I think Mr. Lorenzo last meeting said 96 jobs. And the other question, and I know this is all rolled in together, but exactly how tall are these grasses going to be? We live in a rural state, in a rural county. We have plenty of wildlife. My neighbor across the street has the city record of catching 9 raccoons in her backyard. And she is a meticulously clean person. But you can't keep wildlife out when they want to come in. So if these grasses are going to go from 3 feet or even 6 feet tall, which is quite possible because we do not know the identity of the species or the actual maintenance of what it's going to be, we're talking deer bedding areas. What if the deer come in and they bed down, and this is a realistic possibility, we're going to have bucks running into the city and potentially with the antlers goring citizens or an employee out on his work break. Is the city somehow going to get blamed for that and have to accept responsibility because we allowed an ordinance to pass with excessive heights of grasses? I have concerns for the city from a liability standard. And if the grasses are native grasses and they're going to attract bees, hornets, Asian hornets, and African killer bees.
All right, anybody else from the audience? All right, seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 18, Council Bill 39 on second reading.
Second. Mr. Blish?
No.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
No.
Mr. Davidson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18, Council Bill 39 has passed second reading 5-2. Additional old business, Mr. Davidson.
None.
Old business, Mr. Lucas.
No.
Mr. Story.
Yes, I ask for second reading of ordinance number 17, Council Bill 38, to be read by title only.
Second. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 17, Council Bill 38 for 2024, and ordinance amending Chapter 75 of the Seymour City Code, 5th Street angled parking, 15-minute parking at 5th Street and Ewing, thoroughfare and drainage. Mr. Story.
In our last meeting, we discussed this in a little more detail. However, we're looking for 15-minute parking at 5th and Ewing, and also angled parking at 5th Street on the south side of 5th Street. And Bernie, unless you have anything to add, our discussion was that you in fact recommend that this change is geometrically okay?
You're gaining a couple of parking spaces, and it'll be easier to get in and out for the area around the fish stand.
Any other questions from council?
And it didn't affect residential parking as
Correct. Any comments from the audience?
My name is Kyle Herkamp. I was a little confused and still don't understand that last meeting. Is the angled parking being put in on the San Marco side of the street or the fish stand side?
Fish stand.
Fish stand side.
San Marcos side already has angled parking, so it'll be both sides technically.
We're not adding though on that.
Right.
Hearing no other comments, I move to approve ordinance number 17, Council Bill 38 on second reading.
Second.
Mr. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Ordinance number 17, Council Bill 38 has passed second reading 7-0. Any additional old business, Mr. Story?
No, that's it.
Back to you, Mayor.
New business, Mr. Bose?
New business, Mr. Blish.
No, sir.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes. I'd like to do an introduction of the ordinance 20, Council Bill number 42.
Second.
By title only.
By title only.
By title only, sorry. Sorry.
Mr. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 20, Council Bill 42 for 2024, an ordinance to rezone property located at 5702 North County Road 1225 East, Seymour, Indiana. Planning and Zoning Committee.
speak, Mr. Terrell. Yeah, you go right ahead.
Jeremy Gray, Building Commissioner, City of Seymour. Tim Beinecke wants to rezone his property from RS to C3, and that came before our Plan Commission this month. And it was with an 8-0 unfavorable recommendation. I believe Mr. Beinecke's here, and there are some neighbors that would like to speak on it. So just wanted to know that it is coming from Plan Commission with an unfavorable. Thank you.
Mr. Beinecke, would you like to speak? There you are.
My name's Tim Beinecke. I just wanted to rezone that to put a used car sales there on the corner, Highway 50 and the side county road. The neighbors objected because they thought I would create a traffic problem. Those same neighbors have a residential lawn care business. First house, the next place has heavy equipment traveling that road on a regular basis. They operate a business from their home. And I actually am facing 50. I would have no effect back towards them, but I would have there out there. And then right across the road from me is the large complex of residential rentals. There used to be a motel there, and now it's rentals. And I just, nothing big. I just wanted to retire there, and it's just going to be a small operation, maybe a handful of cars. Just needed permission to do it.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Sorry, Brian.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Anyone like to speak against?
My name is Goldie Dykes, and I'm the one that lives across the road from the property, and it is a very narrow road. He spoke of the lawn care business. We do not have traffic in and out that road. If we leave of a morning, you don't see us again till that night. And I have a letter that I would read to the rest of the crowd. I am writing to express my deep concern regarding the proposed rezoning of 5702 North County Road East, residential suburban, to C3. As a resident of the community directly affected by this decision, I feel compelled to voice my opposition to this proposal. First and foremost, rezoning this area to C3 commercial zoning poses significant risk to the character and integrity of our neighborhood. The current zoning regulation in place have been carefully crafted to maintain the residential nature of our community, fostering a safer and cohesive environment for families. Introducing commercial zoning would disrupt this balance and likely lead to increased traffic, noise, and light pollution, and decreased property values. Furthermore, the proposed rezoning fails to consider the concerns of residents regarding the potential negative impact on the environment. Our neighborhood is home to the diverse wildlife and natural habitats, which would be jeopardized by commercial development. Additionally, increased commercial activity may result in greater strain on local resources such as water and electricity, further exuberating environmental concerns and negativity impact the neighboring wildlife refuge. Moreover, rezoning to C3 commercial zoning could open the door to a wide range of businesses that are incompatible with the character of our neighborhood. From large-scale retail outlets to warehouses, to potential implications of such rezoning are deeply troubling. We cherish the quiet residential atmosphere of our community and fear that commercial development would irreversibly alter the landscape we hold dear. In light of the concerns, I strongly urge you to consider the proposed rezoning of 5702 North County Road 1225 East to C3. Instead, I implore you to patronize the well-being and wishes of the residents who call this area home. It is essential that any decision regarding zoning changes take into account the long-term impact on our community and its residents. Thank you for considering my perspective on this matter. I trust that you will carefully weigh the concerns raised by myself and other residents before making a final decision. Thank you.
Goldie, were those your words or somebody else?
Those were my words.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Back to you, Mr. Darrell.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, sorry.
My name is Lisa Connor, and there are 6 of us tonight from our neighborhood here. My husband and I, we live across the street and down the road a little bit from his property. We came here a couple weeks ago regarding the rezoning, and I had written a letter as well regarding this, mentioning the narrow roads and the potential for accidents and things getting off Highway 50. But most importantly, I would just like to preserve our quiet rural residential area where we live. I just wanted to ask you to please uphold the Plan Commission's unanimous decision to deny the request to rezone the property. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Susan Kloss, and I also live on this road. When I first bought the property in 2015, it took me like 9 months before I was able to move in. And in that time, 2 crosses appeared at the end of the road for people who had been killed. It's not a safe corner. There's a rise coming up. You can't see the cars until they're right on top of the hill. There's barely enough room for 2 full-size cars on our road. And it's just too much. Any added traffic would be too much of a safety issue.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Hang on, I think you got somebody just stood up.
Give it up.
He was just
Oh, he was letting her back in. Okay, sorry.
Just, motion to approve this on first reading.
Second.
Mr. Blish, you're voting to approve. So yes means you approve the ordinance, or no, you don't?
Nope.
Mr. Terrell?
No.
Mr. Hackney?
No.
Mr. Hubbard?
No.
Mr. Davidson?
No.
Mr. Lucas?
No.
Mr. Story?
No.
Ordinance number 20, Council Bill 42 has failed, 0-7. Any additional new business, Mr. Terrell?
Yeah, I'd like to make a introduction of a resolution of number 23, Council Bill 40, by title only.
Second.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Introduction of resolution number 23, Council Bill number 40 for 2024, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Seymour, Indiana, approving recommendation of Planning Commission regarding roadway classifications. Planning and Zoning Committee, Mr. Terrell.
We'll let Barney
Talk
talk
on
on
this.
this, he's a road expert.
Bernie Hausberger, city engineer. I just wanted to mention that what we have right now is a roadway classification system that that Jeremy keeps track of and does a good job with making sure that the roads are zoned or are correctly on his functional classification map. But it becomes difficult when the state also has the same functional classification map online that is kept, and that also has the state highways on that also, along with our roads and et cetera. So what we'd like to do is just use that system and let Jeremy let his paper copies go by the wayside. Then everybody can get online and know exactly what their roadway classification is. And if you don't understand roadway classification, that would be like an arterial would be like a US 50, and then Burkhart Boulevard is also an arterial that has to be updated as it gets expanded. So just as a quick example, and that gets funding for us, and also for future development, we get the exact, everybody's on the same page on what setbacks are for a development if it's an arterial versus a collector versus a local street. So anyhow, I think it just helps everybody, understand where we're coming from.
So it smooths the system out.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody from council have questions? Anybody want to speak on this?
Tyler Hinkle. Although I definitely see the use for paper copies, it would eliminate some trash from the city of Seymour if we weren't constantly reprinting every time we added a street, et cetera, et cetera. So, say go for it.
See what you did there, it's good.
I agree, Todd.
Anyone else? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Resolution 23, Council Bill 40 on the first reading.
Second.
Mr. Blish?
Yes.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Story?
Yes.
Resolution number 23, Council Bill 40 has passed first and only reading, 7-0. Additional new business, Mr. Terrell.
No, I don't.
New business, Mr. Hackney.
No, sir.
New business, Mr. Hubbard.
No, sir.
New business, Mr. Davidson.
None.
Mr. Lucas.
No.
And Mr. Story.
Yes, I ask for introduction of ordinance number 19, Council Bill number 41, be read by title only.
Second. Mr. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 19, Council Bill number 41 for 2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 150 of the Seymour City Code, classification of thoroughfares. Thoroughfare and Drainage Committee, Mr. Story.
Bernie, you're the road expert.
I tried to be.
You want me to take a stab at this one? It's cleaning up the language so that it matches.
Okay, we're just matching what I just talked about.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have,
In the thoroughfare plan.
yeah, I actually don't know what this exactly says, so,
Okay.
thank you, I'm sorry.
No. Thank you, I'm sorry. Same thing, only different.
Making our words match their words.
Comments from council? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, I move that ordinance number 19, Council Bill 41 be passed on first reading.
Second.
Mr. Blish.
Yes.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Story.
Yes.
Ordinance number 19, Council Bill 41 has passed first reading, 7-0.
Before we move on, is there any reason that this has to be, should we see 2 readings tonight? I mean, are you trying to meet any sort of deadline? Can I keep going?
Additional new business, Mr.
Yeah,
Story.
so, just in quick summary, I said earlier that council are in our special committee would just update council. We did have a really good meeting. It was, I would say it was in fact constructive to kind of dissect each of the pieces that were identified in the agenda. And we had asked for 2 resolutions to be prepared. One resolution for council's position, really the committee's position on items that were favorable, and another resolution for items that were unfavorable. But I am not inclined to, in fact, approve either of these. So I would be a no vote on either of these, mainly because they still talk about Brookings Institute and the agenda. And so, in all honesty, I would love to get rid of that word and that connection. So I don't think that I have any other new business, because I'd like for the resolution that we passed back in March to just be unchanged. I would in fact, though, ask and request that the mayor and his staff put together an economic agenda that could be looked at as an alternative that would not have any connections to Brookings Institute. Amen. So I would ask for any comments from the members of the special committee first.
The
Do you have any?
The feedback that I got, was, what we did pull out, there is some good things in it, but the separation, I think is necessary. We need to get that wording out of it and make it a plan that it's our plan, it's a Seymour plan. And I think
Yes.
going in that direction would be in our best interest. I think there's enough items there that we could go off of and get this together fairly quickly. But it's a matter of just, like I said, I think we need to separate our ties from the Brookings side of it.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
I would agree 100%. I think I've heard enough Brookings stuff over the last couple of months that I never ever want to hear that word again.
Amen.
So, that I'm not in favor of bringing that forward either.
Any comments from any other council member?
The only thing I've got to say, and in fact, I had it down on a paper and failed to bring it with me, but I totaled up yesterday, since the last meeting, I'd talked to 37 individuals, got 8 emails and 4 letters. And I guess what I wanted to say was the amount of respect that came from everybody that reached out to me was huge, and that's very appreciated. I think everybody brought forth a lot of good information, legitimate concerns, what have you, but the way that they went about it, some of them are in this room, some of them aren't, but definitely appreciate them going about it in a professional, kind way. So just adding that in there.
I'm gonna jump right in, follow right in line of Mr. Blish. I myself was prepared to move forward here and speak if this was to continue. I have a letter drafted up for each council member that says, I've spoken to 64 people, 57 have been opposed, 7 are in favor. Out of the 64, 42 of them have been from my district in District 3. A very wise past councilman, Mr. Dave Early, advised me that I am one vote. One vote out of 42 in my district. 42 of them in my district are opposed to this, so I'm strongly opposed to this as well.
Well, I think that would be, I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee, but I would look to you to in fact provide an alternative.
I am happy to provide an alternative. My question goes to the whole reason that I asked you to look at this in the first place. Simply striking the word Brookings out, I believe you're going to see a lot of similar things come back, because these are things that the city was working on before.
And I believe.
So that's fine, but when things come back, are we going to have the same uprising because they realize that? So ultimately, these items are shut down because if we bring them back, even without Brookings attached, are people going to scream then too? And that's the reason I asked you to look at it, Drew, is because there are things here that housing, I have been talking about housing since the start of 2020. We need to work on housing. But when that shows back up and planning and zoning gets another subdivision, are we going to have screaming because it was identified here? I mean, that's my question to you, is how, yes, we learned pieces along the way. But if something shows up that was here, are we going to have the same uprising and not be able to work on it? Or are we going to be able to, and again, housing, 2020. When I first started the job, my very first day of the city, I told you we needed to work on housing because we were short then and we're short now. So.
Quit bringing people in.
Yeah, so I would just say if you feel that it's certainly important and if council has the opportunity to be a part of those discussions, great. But at this moment, I just don't see any reason to move forward with what we've got in front of us.
Okay. No problem. want to make, you want that for both items at once, or you just want the 2443?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Keithley.
Could I
something to say?
speak? Sure, please.
Chad Keithley, Park Board Director. Just to let everyone know, each one of these 6 items was in our 5-year master plan that was adopted on the resolution dated February 8th of 2021. So page 56 of our 5-year master plan talks about 2.3. Page 9 talks about 3.1. Page 1 through 57, creating a new master plan, that's 3.2. Page 9 on 4.2, and page 11 on 6.1. So these are items that we've been working on since we started planning in 2020 for our 2021-2025 plan. So basically, if you're saying that I can't continue my 5-year plan, I've got my park board here as well, then we can't apply for grants through DNR. Trails, I'm also on the Trails Committee now with Mr. Terrell. So that's grant funding that we can't apply for. Also, I'm on the Tree Board. I've got President of the Tree Board, Doug Gregory, with me tonight. We've applied for grants through those. I've gotten around $43,000 worth of grant money, which is $2 per capita that we have to spend for the Tree City USA in order to stay a Tree City USA. So that's items that's already on our master plan that was taking place way before the Brookings study.
I have a question, Chad. Was there anything added to those items after they were put in there?
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay.
Everything on these items, page numbers, I've got it right here on the
No,
master plan. I've also
talking
got
about that. What I meant was, you said this was created in 2020, and you said, and you referenced those to each one of those points in the Brookings agenda. Was anything added to those after your plan was made in 2020 that changed each one of those?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I believe, Mr. Keithley, I made a motion to this council last meeting. Mr. Hackney spoke upon it. I don't believe the resolution that was put forth by Mr. Story was enabling you to do what you started back in February the 8th of 2021. If my date's correct, sir.
That was the day it was adopted.
Yeah.
We actually started working on the plan in 2020. Just like currently right now, I should be working on the plan currently now for whenever the 2025 plan expires.
And correct me if I'm wrong, sir, there was a part in the Brookings Institute where you were asking to sit at the table for any new development.
Correct. We don't build neighborhoods. The park department does not build neighborhoods. Basically, if someone would come in and want to build a 15-acre neighborhood, then I'd like to sit at the table with them to discuss, hey, why don't you give us a half acre, 3 acres, put some green space on it. That way I can add amenities, for the citizens of Seymour, whether it be a swing set, a basketball court, pickleball court, things like that. That's what I want to be a part of, not building a neighborhood.
Well, I'll turn this over to you, sir, because in our city code, it already states you're allowed to do that without the Brookings agenda. Yes.
So with that being said, if it's stated in city code, then I'm going to ask that council give us, the Parks Department, approval to continue our 5-year master plan.
I don't know that you need it, but
I would like to hear it from you guys. You guys,
I mean,
I think my park board would like to also hear it.
What'd you say that code says?
My park board would also like to hear it from council.
Say that again.
What's that code say?
This code allows them to sit at the table. Chris helped me out there with, or Chad, can I have that back? That's the only copy. I'll put it back to him.
It doesn't state specifically that the Parks Board or Parks Department is involved in the conversation. This is a chapter specifically on conservation subdivisions, and there are certain requirements on things like green space and space made available for recreational activities within the subdivision plan itself.
Which I believe, Mr. Keithley, that's what you're asking for, correct?
Correct.
And with that said, through the planning process of getting subdivision plans approved, roundaboutly, the Parks Department would have some representation in that conversation, as there is a representative from your department on the plat committee that would be able to offer some perspective from the Parks Department for all subdivision planning.
So, Mr. Keithley, I guess, is asking this council, I don't know if you're just wanting us to tell you yes. I mean, I think most of this council agrees that you don't need a vote, sir. There's nothing stopping you from moving on.
Is that from all council members? I'm hearing it from you. I'm not hearing it from anybody else. No disrespect, Mr. Hubbard.
No disrespect taken.
I agree.
I'm kind of getting new to this part of it, but as far as if the plan was in place and it's something that you had already been working on, I don't think I don't think this is handcuffed you. I think you could still do what you need to do.
That's the way I took it, but.
That's for, sir.
Stay busy with it.
I agree.
Keep on.
Sounds like they've given you their permission.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So, do they even need to be tabled?
They're not brought up.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, they're good. Miscellaneous. Council? Audience?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. Jim Harvey, we got Brookings Institutes out of the way. I'd like to see us get George Soros out of the way. If his name is attached to anything that we do, I'm afraid it's not going to be good for America.
Okay. Anyone else?
My name is Paula Herkamp, and I would like to thank Mr. Hubbard for having done his homework and asking the questions of the Parks Department Director, Chad Keithley. As noticed, Mr. Keithley said that the master plan, the items in the agenda of which were discussed on May 22nd at the ad hoc meeting, Mr. Keithley said those were part of the master plan of 2020, yet February 8th, 2021 date was given in his documents that he presented. However, in the recent letter from the Seymour Parks and Recreation Department Board of Directors, the Brookings Institute agenda plans were clearly identified as being part of that 2020 master plan. My question is, were they or were they not part of the 2020 plan? You can't not put them in and then come back years later and say that they were in the plan. I see that as an ethical issue. I also see.
Can I interrupt
yes.
you for a second?
Will that take off my time?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Keithley has the page numbers that each one of these are on. I'm sure Mr. Keithley is more than willing to give you a copy of that if it is public record, correct, yep. Mr. Keithley?
Yeah, under the Freedom of Information Act. Yes.
He is willing to give you a copy of that to show you exactly where every one of these are listed at in his 5-year plan.
Right.
So.
What my concern is, Mr. Hubbard and all of the other members, is that Mr. Keithley may have documents that says this was in 2020 or 2021, but in the recent Parks Department letter to the city council members, it states that these Brookings Institute agendas, and they're identified, that they were part of that master plan, but that same letter also quotes that our agenda as a Parks Department is 99% complete. I'm having a difficult time wrapping my brain around the 2020 master plan for 5 years being 99% complete, yet these Brookings Institute agenda topics, which were discussed on the 22nd, are still floating around, and yet we're talking about, oh, well, let's not change the resolution. Let's leave it the same. And it seems like a merry-go-round, like we're reinventing the wheel over and over again. And the citizens of this city seemingly, possibly hoodwinked into thinking that the Brookings Institute is dead. Because as we all know, on social media, the mayor many, many times has quoted, the issue is dead, it's over with, it's done, it's gone, it doesn't exist, all those different paraphrases. But he specifically used the word, it is dead. I don't believe it's dead, and I don't think that anyone else in this room believes it's dead. And I don't think that the council members, respectfully speaking, I don't believe that you gentlemen believe it's dead either. And that meeting on May 22nd went way outside the scope of what it was advertised to do. Mr. Story, Mr. Hackney, Mr. Terrell, that meeting went through the entire Brookings Institute, and it was not publicly published that the purpose would be for examining item by item the Brookings Institute study. It was only in regards to the Parks Department. And one final question.
Anyone else?
Tyler Hinkle. I just wanted to commend everyone in this room, the people who showed up to oppose, the people who showed up in support. In particular, Mr. Hackney, I think Mr. Blish, Mr. Story, you guys made it clear tonight that the word Brookings matters, and you made it clear, and Seymour took a big step forward. Words matter. And I just want to thank you guys, because for as long as I can remember, 33 years, there's been a lot of people who've disagreed that words matter. But each one of you tonight proved in public, in a public forum, that words matter. And I know that those of you who are here to shut it down, and those of you who are here in opposition, you inevitably then have to agree that words matter. So I think that's awesome. Seymour took a huge step forward tonight. And if we just take that into the rest of our lives with all the other words that I know many of us probably need to change up outside of here, the way we talk, the way that we talk about others, I think you all you all are going to go down as one of the best councils ever, because now we all know words matter.
Thank you, Tyler.
Monica?
My name is Monica Riley. I am the board president of the Parks and Recreation Department. And I just wanted to clarify to Ms. Herkamp, is it? The letter that you spoke about. I wanted to clarify why the confusion. The Parks Department is required by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources to have a 5-year master plan. We started working on that 5-year master plan in 2020, but we started putting the document together in 2020. But we also started working on some of the things that were in it in 2020, but it wasn't actually approved by DNR until 2021. So we had already made progress toward it before it was even approved. Now, it was a 5-year plan, so it was 21 to 25, right? And so in the last few years, we've been working on things that are in this plan. And since 2020, 2021, which would be well before the Brookings study. The reason that it was worded in the letter the way it was is because we already had plans to do all these things that were in this 5-year plan. But then when the study was published, it happened to touch on things that we said 3 years ago that we were going to do. So we wrote a letter to council because the council said we can't do anything with the suggestions of the Brookings study. So because some of the things that were in our 5-year plan happened to be mentioned in that study, we felt that we could not do anything that happened to be mentioned there. But that's why we mentioned the Brookings study in the letter, because they came up with ideas after we'd already come up with them. But we wanted the council to realize that we knew that the Brookings study, we weren't supposed to do anything with it, but we wanted to do something that just happened to be on the same, the same items were on the same list, or were on both lists, I'm sorry. That is why the letter was worded the way it was. I would also say to the council, you guys all said you don't feel like we need a motion or a vote to approve us moving forward on the 6 items that we put in our letter. And I appreciate that you're willing to let us move forward with everything in our letter. But but we put them in there.
Name is Kyle Herkamp. I'm going to use the mayor's words here towards Mr. Keithley. That letter that was addressed to the council, were those your words or someone else's words?
If you read the letter, it actually comes from the park board.
Okay, was it from the park board or was it someone else's words?
Came from the park board.
Came from the park board, all right. Furthermore, to the president, I feel like a big issue of why people feel there's a distrust and lack of faith and capability is that certain projects start getting worked on before approval and permission is gotten. So it still comes across as backdooring, hoodwinking, and then we still have to ask, are these Brookings Institute's things going to be tied in together? And it's just like, despite saying it's dead, it still comes back. And it's just really confusing, mixed messages, and questions get asked because it's the city officials that their boss is the mayor, and it just asks the question of, why is the mayor wanting to push this? Why is he wanting this? Is he wanting to tie this as his legislative piece as tied to his political legacy, or what? Is it because of his religious beliefs, personal beliefs, or what? And it's just very confusing and mind-boggling of why things get said and yet other things happen still.
Oh, wait a minute. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you give us an example of work that was started before it was approved?
Mr. Keithley just said they started the master plan in 2020. The president said they started work and yet they did not get permission until 21.
But at that time it was approved, correct?
They started work in 20 but got approval in 21. That's still starting work before it gets started.
Work on the plan and then it's approved in 2021.
Okay, from what I understood is that they started work, and at the previous council meeting, it had mentioned part of the Brookings Institute things that I don't know if it got allowed to proceed or not proceed was over at the Burkhart Boulevard green space farmland or something that's not being used. The Parks Department had already bought and planted said trees at the green space there before the March 25th meeting when it supposedly killed all this. So again, mixed messages and misunderstandings.
Which was also in their 2021 Parks Master Plan. So the approval had already been given by that point.
But then they put it in their 25 to 30 master plan is what I was understood.
We have not done a 25 to 30 master plan. That work starts in 24, should be approved sometime in 25.
So this master plan that's being discussed, as far as I knew, that was the new master plan going forward.
No, sir, that's where you're mistaken. This master plan is from February 1st of 2021 until February 1st of 2025. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So the work on the plan started, writing the plan started in 20.
Yeah, that's what
But it
you're
was
saying,
the
Chad,
21
right?
plan.
I mean, when you said you started.
For instance, now that you guys have given me permission to work on my 5-year master plan now, I will start June of this year to create it for 2026.
Right,
You don't
but
just make a 57 to 75 page 5-year master plan in a week. I mean, it takes a year and a half to build it.
My question was when you originally said you started working on it, you were just talking about the planning side of things, not the actual work.
We weren't.
Is that what
you're
question
getting at?
was? And from what I understood is that the Brookings Institute thing with the planting of the green space had not gotten approval yet they had already done that. I don't know if that was the mayor or Mr. Keithley that had mentioned that last meeting, that they've already done that, and now they've already received the first shipment of trees and planted them, but now they have to cancel the rest of the tree shipments until they get permission to proceed.
So to answer your question, Mr. Herkamp, that section of trees that was purchased through the Tree City USA money. That is grant funding that we received. So that's no money from tax dollars or our budget. And that order was actually made prior to March 25th resolution where it was denied to continue working on anything. That order was actually picked up that Monday morning from Schneider Nursery, and the trees were planted. That was something to put in to divide the neighbor that was living next to that property, to give him a barrier from that facility area.
Okay, I guess that's where my misunderstanding is that I thought the planting of the trees was part of that March 25th motion that then we were told killed that day, but yet before it got approved, before it had come to the city council to approve or deny it, work had already been done on it. That's what was confusing to me in the wording language or what was said or implied or intent.
Just a little clarification real fast. Chad Keithley, were you park director? When did you become park director, sir?
I got sworn in January 2nd, 2024.
This master plan is not Chad Keithley's master plan, correct me if I'm wrong?
Correct.
This was our past park director, correct me, park board, if I'm wrong in any way here when I speak. This master plan was done brilliantly, so brilliantly, that the Brookings Institute picked it up and said, let's do this. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to this park board for writing something and putting together something so excellent.
Yes.
That the Brookings Institute picked it up and said, wow, we're putting this on our plan. So thank you guys.
Sheila McDonough. I have a question for you, sir. On these items that were listed, talking about planting a fruit forest, where exactly is that fruit forest being planted?
So that's located on the 340 North property. If you go south on O'Brien Street,
How far south?
go through the roundabout and turn the next road to the left, right past the Burkhardt overpass.
Okay, I love the idea of a fruit forest. I've heard of other communities doing that. My question is, why is a fruit forest so far away from the center of our town? Why don't we have a fruit forest, say, at Geyser Park or at Shields Park, where citizens around the area could benefit from that? That's a question I have. Why are we developing that so far from the center of our city?
You would have to take down trees in parks to make it happen.
Didn't
There's no
we?
sense in taking trees down that's already grown.
Okay.
That was an open field. And to clarify, it's not a fruit forest. Don't think we're raising apples and peaches and pears. It's a food forest, and it'll grow walnuts, hickory nuts, acorns. It'll grow stuff that people can go out and pick up. It's not, the reason it's not fruit is because the cost of a fruit tree and to maintain it would absolutely destroy Park and Rec's budget. And besides the amount of grant money that we get through the tree board. And also clear, the tree board, the almost $43,000 that we got did not come from anybody other than JCIC and Solid Waste District. There was no Brookings in the study. There was no Brookings money whatsoever. That money is to help Chad, both Chads, just so happened, both Chads. That money is to help both Chads. If the city, the 2nd Street project, they had to take trees down, that's gonna plant 2 trees back for every tree they took down. What money we do take out of there, we're taking a little bit of that money, putting it in the food forest out on South O'Brien Street. And the reason it's there is because the trails go through there. And that's the reason it's there.
Okay, that's my follow-up question to that. Is there's a community that lives over on Oak Street on South O'Brien. So it's a little bit closer in, not so far south as the Burkhardt Boulevard bypass that was recently put in. And I have long been concerned about the people that have to walk up and down O'Brien Street, and they don't have a sidewalk for them to walk on. They're walking in the road. So we're developing trails. We have a Hartford Trails. I ride bike, I hike. I love that a city can be accessible for everyone. So my question is, it seems like there's a lot of fervor for developing something so far away from the center of the city when you've got other concerns that really need to be addressed. Why are those not being addressed?
The South O'Brien Street is getting addressed.
Yes. South O'Brien is currently 4 of the one of the Chads correct me, 4 of the 7 phases have been approved. Each phase is a 5-year plan. Some of those are consecutive, so you'll have 2 at a time. But that does create the trail along South O'Brien to get people
It's just
off
been
the
so
road.
long for those
Yeah.
people,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's why. I agree.
because they don't have cars.
But with that, I know 2 years ago, we went out with the engineer firm to figure out where the stormwater is gonna go off of that road. And I mean, they've got some plans, Bernie's over it, he's sent out some plans, but I just know it's kinda like the Second Street project, that just didn't happen last week. That's been in the plan for how many years?
5 years.
5 years. So it takes time, and trust me, I'd like to do it tomorrow, fix it tomorrow. But that's the way I am, but some of this stuff has to take time. I IDEM on the trash transfer station. They drag their feet. It's all going through IDEM, and a lot of it's grant money and federal money.
ARPA dollars.
Yeah. So that's the reason it takes longer.
So then I have another question. Our newspaper only prints 2 days a week now, so information doesn't get out very well these days. So I just hear things word of mouth. I just want clarification. Are there buses that are coming in to either Schneck Hospital or Jackson Park, bringing in people that we don't know where they come from? Is that happening?
So
And why?
the company that used to run a route here to Seymour was Tornado Bus Lines,
Okay.
much like Greyhound. After an incident where someone threw a punch at a bus driver, they chose not to run here anymore. So no, there are not buses coming here from Tornado anymore.
So why were they coming here to begin with, and where were they coming from?
It was one of their dedicated routes. They would, my
Talking,
understanding.
this is like a passenger bus? These are
Yes,
people
it's
that
like a
already,
Greyhound.
it's like people that already live here?
Did you ever take a Greyhound?
It was many, many years ago, but yes, I have.
So same concept. They run Indianapolis to Vincennes to Bedford to Seymour to
So they're bringing
Chicago
people
to wherever.
to here that already live here, is what you're saying. It wasn't strangers that,
No idea, ma'am. It's hard to decide. It's hard
I
for
think
us
we-
to
I think we
stop
need
somebody and ask where they're
clarification
coming from.
of those types of activities and why there's such a fervor to develop this plot of land south of our city when we have other issues that, it just feels like there's being a situation set up for future influx of people. And that's what makes a lot of us nervous, which is going to affect us in a lot of different ways. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Sheila. Anyone else? Paula, I think you've been up for your 3 minutes this round. Didn't you start us?
Thank you for your concern, Mr. Mayor. The question I have, as I diligently listened to Ms. Monica's testimony up here, she did acknowledge that they had, yes, begun working on some Parks Department plans before the approval on some of the projects. But then, moments later, she also stated that there were other projects that they wanted to implement and carry through, but they knew they couldn't do it without the prior approval. I call that an oxymoronic statement, which another word to say it is contradictory. So the other question I have, I guess for the Parks Board and the council, has the council ascertained from where the Parks Board letter originated, or who drafted it, whose input was made? And are you Ms. Zunix?
Yep.
Okay. Did you draft that letter independently or with additional input?
I drafted it by myself, I created it, and it went out to email to the park board for approval to be.
Then I must commend you on your eloquent grammatical skills. You should have been a high school English teacher.
I'd like to thank Christine Huffman for that.
Okay, because when I read that, I looked at that and thought, was I in some zombie state and I wrote that myself? I mean, there are other individuals in this room whose spouses and family members are high school English teachers as well. So that's why I want to commend you on your grammatical skills. Because my concern, honestly, was that I do not believe Mr. Keithley has the grammatical skills to write that. That's what made me think that it came from somewhere else. So thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Well, next.
So I have a question. So how did we get the county council to approve $1 million for Brookings 1.2? But we can't get the city to, like, it's a shutdown kind of thing. It was just in the newspaper this week. We got $1 million in ARPA funds, 1.2 for creative workspace. That's 1.2 in the Brookings agenda. So are we talking to county council at all? Are we getting their feedback? Like,
Kendra?
why are we against it, but we can get $1 million from the county?
Every one of these meetings that we have had, I have received a text message from the county council president commending the city council for stopping this brooking agenda. So